Sorry. Meetings are broadcast live on Glendale TV, viewable on Spectrum Cable Channel 6 and AT&T UVerse Channel 99. Meetings are also streamed live in high definition on the city's webpage, glendaleca.gov/live. Also on youtube.com/myglendale and on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire devices using a free app called ScreenWeave and choosing Glendale TV from the menu. Meetings are also archived on the city's website for viewing anytime at glendaleca.gov/agendas. Please call 818-548-4013 for program schedules. DVDs of the proceedings are available for purchase in the city clerk's office. For public comments and questions during the meeting, call 818-937-8100. Public comments on a specific agenda item will be taken when that agenda item is discussed. If you have questions about matters on the agenda or requests for assistance, please contact the Management Services Department at 818-548-4844 during regular business hours. At this time, we'd like to acknowledge that we are holding this meeting in the city of Glendale on the traditional lands of the Gabrielina Tongva people. We would like to pay our respects to the elders, both past and present, and the Tongva communities who continue to be stewards of this land. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Commissioner Bartrosuf.
Here.
Commissioner Bazemore.
Here.
Commissioner Cartoonian.
Here.
Vice Chair Pinkerton.
Here.
Chair Werner.
Here.
Yeah. Ex officio Borisov.
Here.
Ex officio Kudo. We can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Agenda item 2 is approval of minutes. 2A is approval of the agenda item 1C, the agenda for the November 3rd, 2022 meeting of the Sustainability Commission was posted on October 28, 2022 on the bulletin board outside City Hall. Next item is 2, approval of minutes. 2A, approval of the minutes of the Commission regular meeting held October 6, 2022.
Okay, are there any questions about the minutes, or otherwise can we have a motion to accept?
I move to accept.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bazemore.
Yes.
Commissioner Bartrosuf.
Yes.
Commissioner Cartoonian.
Yes.
Vice Chair Pinkerton.
Yes.
Chair Werner.
Yes.
Next item is agenda 3, board member/staff comments.
Would you like to start us off, David?
Thank you, Chairperson Werner and Sustainability Commission. We have a few staff comments. So first of all, we're very excited that at the City Council meeting of November 1st, we went forward with an introduction of the ordinance for building electrification. Council did approve that, so they approved, in essence, 3 REACH codes that we're looking at. First one is building electrification, so all new construction will be electric buildings. Increased solar PV on buildings to 100% offset energy or 50% of the roof area, and also increased EV infrastructure within the city. There's very few get-outs. There's an infeasibility waiver process, which we brought in front of the Commission. And I do want to thank the Commission for their feedback during that process, because that feedback did make it into the report. We had a recent, what we call the cost-effectiveness studies come back, and those cost-effectiveness studies indicated that at this time, it would not be reasonable for us to ask for restaurants to be all electric. So we put inside a 1 year, have a 1 year grace period to not electrify any new restaurants, but starting January 1, 2024, that will just become part of the regular infeasibility waiver. So we think this is a great step forward in our journey towards decarbonising our built and transportation sectors. So again, I'd like to thank the Commission for all their feedback in that report. Secondly, Council also extended the moratorium and drive-through for another 10 months and 15 days, so that was done recently. And then finally, 3 future City Council agenda items which may be of interest to the Commission. Obviously, on November 15th, we'll have the formal adoption of the REACH Code Ordinance. Also, on November 15th, there's going to be a report to Council on the Verdugo Wash Vision Project. And on November 29th, we will be going to Council asking for recommendations and guidance regarding the prohibition of polystyrene foodware. So those are 3 upcoming Council that the Commission may be interested. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any comments from the commissioners?
Just a question or clarification for David, actually. I know when we make suggestions here, just wondering what kind of follow-up. I remember asking about a list of contracts for the city's, commodity purchases. Do we need to make that more formal? Do we need to send communication to the council?
That's a very good question, Commissioner Pinkerton. And actually, we're going to talk about that in staff updates over the last 3 or 4 weeks. Elizabeth and I have been working very hard on that. We've put together like a whole programming of where we are in it. So we're going to explain that whole thing to you in the feedback process, because we recognize these issues.
Yeah, I wanted to thank staff for all their work on the newsletter in particular, the sustainability newsletter. I think it's been really wonderful what's been going into that. And I also wanted to make a call out to the Instagram in particular. I myself use Instagram, and there have been some great posts on there. I think that are very informative. I think it's a wonderful avenue for reaching out to a wider audience than what would normally be captured with something like the newsletter. So just want to mention that. And then there is, again, another compost giveaway I wanted to make mention that's going to be happening tomorrow at the same location. Excuse me, it's not tomorrow. It's Saturday the 5th, and it's going to be at Lot 30 again. And I just think that's a great thing for folks to know about. So that's happening, and that's all. Yeah, thanks.
Great, and for those who don't know where Lot 30 is, could you?
Yes, thank you. So Lot 30 is located up at, it's on Verdugo, and it's across from GCC. Yes, next to Mountain, thank you. And I didn't mention the time, so it's between 8 a.m. and noon, and it's a first come, first serve, so you can come and get as much as you'd like. You just need to bring a sturdy bin. And yeah, they should be doing this on a regular basis, so if you need compost, great option, great opportunity to take advantage, because it's coming from all of the food waste that's being gathered here in the city.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Oh, just one. I'm sorry, go ahead. Just when David commented on the EPS foodware, just an FYI that Los Angeles took our proposed EPS citywide ban ordinance to committee today. We have to amend it, but we're hoping it will get adopted soon. But we did a citywide ban, not just on foodware, but essentially all products that are not, EPS products are not fully encapsulated in something else. But we could not cover products that are shipped into the city, such as packaging, things of that sort, and be a violation of the Commerce Clause. And we are giving smaller restaurants about 1.5 years to comply. So we're going to make the foodware, make the ban essentially effective Earth Day 2023, and then we're giving smaller businesses, which are those fewer than 26 employees, till Earth Day 24 to comply. So I just wanted to let you know in case you're interested in aligning with that. Thanks.
I'd like to congratulate staff and the commission for our REACH codes being recently passed, and special thanks to David for answering very rigorous questions during the meeting. And I wanted to comment quickly on the ex officio project that we were assigned. So unfortunately, ex officio Kudo could not make it today because she's at mock trial, but I'm sure she's sending us her best wishes. And so essentially, we landed on a top 3 things that we're going to work on. The first is we want to organize a field trip with GUSD and GCC students. And so this field trip would take place around February or March, and it would be at the wastewater treatment plant in Glendale, and basically talk about how we treat water and why it's important and how it could benefit the environment. The second is working on a bi-monthly club network, newsletter network. So essentially, like, there are different clubs, environmental sustainability clubs at various schools and campuses, and so we could interact with them and maybe have like a joint bi-monthly newsletter so we can help inform students who are usually busy about what's going on in the works. And the last one was potentially a sustainability career day. So this could be either in virtual or in person, and essentially, like what Verdugo Job Center does, it could be hosted at GCC, Verdugo Job Center, and bring employers, potential employers, and interact with students who are seeking environmental jobs, sustainability jobs, and how we could interact with the city on that and help people get a career in this, hopefully, because I think it's a growing job sector. And something personally that I thought would have been nice to discuss potentially, or maybe motion later, if we could have a ex officio section for the Parks and Rec department. I know Elena Satrian, council member, wanted to increase ex officio count in each commission. And I feel like the closest one to sustainability would be the Parks and Recreation Commission. So I feel like we should potentially motion that if that's possible. Yeah, that'll be all. Thank you.
Thank you. I know that there is a movement afoot for adding more student commissioners to several of the boards and commissions, and it's up to city council. I mean, we can support the idea and so on, but I'm not sure how we would go about, changing how other boards do their staffing and so on. But do you have a suggestion?
Yes, Chair Werner, members of the commission. So the structure of these commissions and boards is set forth in the Glendale Municipal Code. And so we set this commission up with an ex officio process to begin with. So each of these boards and commissions would have to look at amending the code to add ex officio members, and they can consider that. It can be brought to their attention, and that's certainly a process that they could undertake, adopting a resolution to modify the code and then bringing the code amendment forward. But that would be approved by the city council.
Great. Thank you.
Question for Mike. Mike, the field trip that you're planning for the water treatment facility, is that the one that we co-own with LA?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's connect afterwards. I believe there's a grant from Department of Sanitation that will pay for the incidental costs, bus and whatnot, for the field trip.
Wonderful. Thank you. I see Elizabeth is writing notes down on that. Thank you.
Great. That's good to know. And are there any other comments?
I had a quick question for David. I'm not sure how far this process is along, but the Beeline electrification process, is it like preliminary? Is there like a design review going on right now? I just wanted to quickly ask what's going on with that.
Ex officio, Borisov, I'm not exactly 100% sure where we are in the process, but we'll find out, and next commission meeting we'll come back and give you an update on exactly where we are.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if there are no other commissioner comments, we can move forward with the next agenda item.
Next agenda item is for oral communications. Discussion is limited to items on the agenda and within the not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of the Sustainability Commission. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Sustainability Commission members may question or respond to a speaker, but there will be no debate or discussion. The matter may be referred to staff for investigation and report. Chair Werner, we don't have any callers on the line.
Okay, so let's close the public comment period and move on with the next agenda item.
Okay. Next agenda item is 5, reports and information, 5A Metro Go Pass.
Chairperson Werner and Commissioners, ex officio Borisov asked us to bring some information back to the Commission on the Metro Go Pass so the Commission could discuss that and decide how to proceed, or if they want to proceed, and what direction they'd want to proceed. So Elizabeth is going to present the information that she found out about this, and then we'll open up to discussion from the Commissioners.
This item was asked to be agendized at the former last Commission meeting. So what I'll do is I'll take you through, there was a request regarding advertising information and also an update regarding GUSD status in the Metro Go Pass. So first of all, regarding advertising of the Metro Go Pass, we spoke to our colleagues in the Beeline department to ask whether or not Metro is advertising this program. So at the time when we reached out, Metro was implementing advertisements inside Beeline buses. So these are when you're sitting down in the Beeline and you look up and you have those adverts there. They're having adverts, and they're implementing those in the Beeline buses to advertise this program. In regards to exterior advertising, there haven't been any requests from Metro to advertise this program on Beeline buses, but I also want to mention that any external advertising, any external of the bus, including the bus shelters, is not managed by the city, but is done through another organization called Outfront Media. So the City of Glendale manages any internal, which is like the inside advertising, and the exterior is managed by Outfront Media. And Metro typically reserves the out front. If they do exterior advertising, the experience of staff has been Metro typically uses it for recruitment. So if you want to know what are the bus advertising options, there are kind of 5 options in general. So you have bus cards, which are the interior. You have Kings, or the side side advertisements on the exterior. You have bus wraps, which are kind of like these advertisements that go up around a bus and over windows. You have the tails, which are the advertisements on the back of the bus, and then you have the bus shelters. At the moment, I was able to briefly speak with Outfront Media about what are the options available. The Beeline buses don't do wraps, so that is just something we don't do. And currently, tails are not available. These are booked out in advance, so if the city or any organization wants to do tail advertising, they'd have to ask the current advertiser if they could give up their spot. But at the moment, that's not available. In terms of pricing, I don't have that information at the moment. They're unable to provide it in time for the meeting, but from the experience of staff is that it's quite expensive, and that this is something that each department would have to pay for. There isn't like a city discount to pay for this types of advertising. That's an update on like the advertising options regarding the buses. So regarding GUSD and the Metro Go Pass program, I reached out to GUSD to get their side of the story on where GUSD is on the Metro Go Pass program, and it's a bit of a longer story. So GUSD every year purchases a set of Beeline bus passes for eligible students. So these are students that are like foster, homeless, free and reduced lunch, or have attendance challenges. They have these bus passes for these students to be able to come to school. And they typically, before the school year, will purchase a bunch of these and distribute to eligible students and have extra on hand in case any students need them. So they did their usual and bought the bus passes, and then they had initial talks with Metro about the Go Pass program. And in their initial talks with Metro, Beeline wasn't part of the Go Pass program, so the GUSD didn't want to enter the program because most of their students use the Beeline buses. And since the Beeline wasn't in the program at that moment, they didn't think it was like, they already had these passes in the pipeline and they didn't think it'd be as feasible. However, in September, when Beeline did enter the Metro Go Pass program, the GUSD had already purchased these Beeline bus passes for students. And then entering into the Metro Go Pass program would essentially be like purchasing another set of transit passes. At the time, when they were investigating this initially, they did not find it financially feasible it wasn't financially sound decision for the school district, which is why they didn't enter the Metro Go Pass program. They investigated if they could get subsidy on entering the Metro Go Pass program because they've already purchased Beeline passes, but that wasn't possible at the moment. Or if it was, it would require them to have all the passes of the students be returned back to GUSD. So essentially, they would have to ask the students to give up the passes, and they did not want to do that to any students they already distribute passes to. At this moment, they are seeing if they could find any, any something to help subsidize it, subsidize entering the program. If there is a form of subsidy, they may be more interested in entering in the program. They were investigating potentially with like Adventus, but that hasn't been quite clear, and they're still working to see if maybe there could be something with the Beeline. But at the moment, it's not for them, it's not a financially sound decision for the school district to enter this program because essentially they bought passes, and entering this program will require them to buy passes again. And so that is why. And by the way, if GUSD were to enter the program costs about $75,000 for GUSD to enroll, and that would be regardless at any time they enter. So it was cost $75,000 to enter at the beginning of the school year, and it would cost $75,000 if they enter in second semester. So that is also why they have concerns about with the financial viability of the decision. But if you want to know about student pass alternatives, there are the Beeline bus passes that GD does offer for the eligible students that I mentioned about that they have purchased. There's also Beeline student passes, which are about $22 a month. The Metro also offers 30-day student passes for K through 12 students, and that's $24. Metro also has a 30-day college and vocation passes for college students, that's $43. And then the Beeline and the Metro both have a program called Low Income Fares Easy or Life program, which provides discounted fares for eligible students on top of these passes. So what the commission can do is you can discuss this issue as a commission because it does affect transit throughout the city. If you do want to take an action regarding this item, you can agendize it for the next commission meeting as an action item. And then at that commission meeting, so December or January, wherever you'd like to have this item come back, you can agendize the action item and provide recommendation to City Council to provide funding regarding funding for this program for GUSD, or you can ask the City Council to direct staff to reach out to GUSD, or you can take another action. But at the moment, if you do want to take an action, you would have to agendize it for the next for another commission meeting. And that is it.
Great, thank you. Do any of the commissioners have any comments?
I do. Thanks for the presentation. If you can go back to that slide with the bus shelter image. We do have smaller advertising spaces on our bus shelters, not the one that we're seeing on the image, but there's a second smaller image that is on display. I just confirmed it on Street View. If you need an example, so Brandon, California, on the southbound side. I've seen Glendale put up an ad for our plastic bag ban that was adopted several years ago. That ad is still on that bus shelter. So I think there's an additional ad space, perhaps that's reserved for PSAs that maybe Glendale can advertise on. But that's a potential easy option to incorporate, not only to promote this program, but other things perhaps that our commission or the city wants to promote. I would encourage the city to take advantage of that advertising space and perhaps have it be a bit more current and in tune with all of the new things that we're advancing. So that's all I wanted to add, that opportunity exists.
I also make a comment. Thank you for the presentation. It was great. I think it's great that we now know that we can't do bus wraps or tails advertisements. I think it's good for future. And I was asking perhaps if a commissioner could motion to agendize the option to recommend City Council to seek funding for Metro Go Pass for GUSD. If you don't, I mean, it's fine. I understand that it's quite expensive, $75,000 to enroll, especially like it's second semester almost for a lot of these campuses. So I understand it can't be done. It's expensive, but to add on the success of Metro Go Pass for GCC, I believe it's pretty nice. I talked recently with GCC Cares Director Andre Manukian over email, and his latest sources were roughly 2,300 requests by students to complete the paperwork to enroll in Metro Go Pass, and thus far 1,600 have activated it. So this might be about a 30-day delay because LA Metro has to like report the data back to GCC and whatnot. But thus far, that's how it is. I think that's pretty successful so far, and I was hoping that maybe we could get some advertisement on the bus to promote it, but it seems to be quite expensive and a long process. But I personally have seen bus card, like empty bus card, not empty bus cards. There's a space where the lining is. There's like only 5 advertisements, so I was surprised that it was empty. But I don't think there's a discount, right? You said there was no discount for city departments to utilize it.
There's no discount for the exterior advertising on like bus shelters, billboards, etc. sides of the buses. The interior is managed by the Public Works Transportation Beeline team.
Right, wonderful, thank you. Yeah, that'll be all, thank you.
I do have a question, though. It would be not, I'm quite surprised by what Commissioner just said, that he's seen an old ad on a bus shelter, because usually these companies push sales quite heavily. So it might be useful if I wonder if there's anything in the contract provisions that if they don't sell out the available space, it could be made available to the city, either at a discount or free, if it's for PSA equivalents. Also, I would also recommend just asking GUSD if they've ever sought funding for that. I know in a couple council districts, a couple council members in LA got funding to put large, the king size ads, and they were all for PSAs, like one on gun safety, things of that sort. But I'm very surprised to hear that there's old advertising out there in a shelter. So I would just recommend that you would think after, 30, 60, 90 days, if that space not being sold, maybe it could convert, It might be helpful also to find out how many, well, in the old days, they were called GRPs, gross rating points, are affiliated with the different bus shelters, meaning how many exposures, how many people go by and see those signs. I'm hoping that company provides that information already. If it doesn't, I think it should, and I would just also ask them if you can, to inquire about their sales levels for each of these options, because, if there is space that's not being used, I think it should convert to the city if that can be arranged. Thank you.
And ex officio, Borison, could you say those numbers again of how many students that?
Yeah, of course. So it's about 2,300 requests thus far for the paperwork for Metro Go Pass, because you have to put in your name and the date you want to activate it. And after, you have 30 days to activate the card for it to be viable on their system. And about 1,600 activations have occurred. I believe these numbers are about 3 weeks delay because we have to get in contact with LA Metro, with GCC, but those are the figures thus far. Yeah.
That's quite a few people, and it would be great once students get used to taking the bus, then maybe they'd be more likely to do that later as adults, professionals and so on too. So I think that's important. I'd like to move to have this on the agenda if we could get a second as far as exploring this for possible recommendation to City Council.
I'll second that.
Right. Maybe we could look into other funding sources in the meantime too. There's a lot of federal funding for green programs and so on.
So if I just may ask for clarification, what exactly do you want us to report back to you on?
That City Council consider funding these bus pass, the Go Passes for students, maybe starting next year, because obviously it's the middle of the year and all that, but to have that be something that they consider doing in the future.
Ex officio Borisov, do you know if GoPass will be extending this program next year to the current schools? You mentioned that the funding right now for GCC is only for 1 year.
That is correct. The intended useful life of this program is until June of 2023 because of the COVID funding that they received. But I know recently, I believe the state funded an extra $1 million grant for GCC alone to purchase these bus passes. So currently in the works, I guess, in the books, it's only 1 year until June 2023. But it's possible that if there's a greater demand, that there would be actual substantive use to fund this, and it would be economically viable or feasible for LA Metro to support Metro GoPass further.
I'm just curious if the city has sought American Infrastructure Act funds. I know LA did, and a certain percentage of those are, to be spread out over different environmental programs. Just curious if we could hear back from the council if they sought those. Thanks.
Okay, so are there any other comments or questions on this agenda item? Okay, I would encourage everyone to talk up the program on Nextdoor, or are there other social channels that they use to the more people are using it, I think the better chance will be that this will receive some support in the future. Okay, so next agenda item.
Next agenda item is 6, Sustainability Office Update.
Chairperson Werner, yes, so we're happy to give some updates. So first of all, I want to apologize regarding the urban tree protections. I know that the Commission had asked staff to do some work on this and report back to the Commission, so that was slightly missed, and again, I apologize for that. So we're going to talk about how to avoid that situation occurring in the future in a minute. So we have begun to do some research on ordinance that other cities have established, and we are connecting internally with staff in Public Works. Arborist has been out of town for a while, but we're working to do that, and we're working hard on preparing a report to bring back to the Commission in early 2023, because we know that this is an item that is of great interest to the Commission. So again, I just want to apologize that this has not been as smooth as possible, but we are going to be working on that to make sure that we can bring this back. Commissioner Pinkerton, I believe one of the requests for follow-up you asked for was regarding recycled paper and City Print Services. So as you can see here, the City Print Services is using the minimum 30% recycled paper. They're finishing the last boxes of the FSC paper that isn't recycled. They're trying to get through that. They are going to be adding that this is printed on recycled paper. I think that was a request of yours, Commissioner Pinkerton. And external printing will be going through rebids for vendors that use recycled paper.
Just one quick comment on the second bullet point. Those two things are not equivalent. Printed on recycled paper, whereas I assume you're talking about the 3-arrow logo. That's being more closely regulated in California now under, was it AB 343 or SB 343? I would not use the symbol without the text accompanying it, because I think to most people the symbol means toss it in the recycling bin, which is true, but it doesn't necessarily equate to recycled content. So I would pair the two, but I would never use the symbol by itself. Just my recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Okay. Oh, a question, just to clarify. I know what FSC stands for, but in case the public doesn't, that's the Forest Stewardship Council. So they certify building wood as well as paper, anything that's made out of wood, just to make sure it comes from sustainable sources. Thank you.
So the city is updating the citywide bicycle and transportation plan and Vision Zero. There is a community-driven task force that's going to be put together to provide input and feedback Commissioner Badrusuf asked about if community development is going to come to the commission and give a formal presentation regarding a commission member being on this advisory committee. We reached out to community development, and they will not be coming forward. They'll be not coming to the commission for a formal, but they recommend that the commission nominate somebody to sit on this advisory board. So staff recommend that at the December meeting, we go through a process similar to how you select an ad hoc committee member to select the students. To go through that process to select one of you to then be part of this advisory committee.
Great, thank you.
And I don't know when it begins, but we'll find out for you. I'll let Elizabeth.
We brought this to the commission as an update a few months ago, but to let the commission know that the city's been awarded a Sustainable California Libraries grant. This was between GLAC and Sustainability Parks, and we're collaborating with the Rauhaus Institute and Fix It Clinic, and this is about $30,000 for Earth Month and beyond activities such as like a sewing repair shop, guided nature hike, Earth Day workshops, etc. We got awarded the grant.
Are you two developing the grant applications for these?
We were awarded it.
Right, but I mean, was it the library that developed the application, or you did? Well, congratulations on
Well,
that.
yeah,
Thank
so
you.
both of us, it's already been developed, submitted, and all the items
Right.
that the grant will fund has been approved by the awarding body.
Wonderful, thank you.
But yes, Commissioner Pinkton, it was Elizabeth from our office and
Nicole Passini from library.
who worked on this grant. So.
In terms of outreach updates, our fall newsletter went out last month to about 443 recipients. Our newsletter subscriber base has increased about 500 since then. You can find a copy on the Office of Sustainability newsletter webpage or on our Instagram at Glendale Sustainability. This one was focusing on organics and composting, so it's been doing fairly well. We had 2 outreach events this.
Oh, apologies.
Asked.
No. So we will be doing a spring type newsletter, I assume. So we would actually like the commission, if they have any ideas or things that they would like to see included in that letter, to please let us know so we can start working and gathering the resources and information together.
Just a quick question. I always urge going with digital versus hard copy, but do you print any hard copies?
No, we
None.
don't.
Okay. I'm wondering if you could just print out copies to maybe get into the public libraries, if the libraries are open now for display on bulletin boards or something. I've found that somewhat effective in LA for different programs. They usually have, community services bulletin board somewhere. Just a suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we had 2 outreach events this past month in October. We had the Community Connection Cleanup event. This was the first time this ran, and we had 2 of our commissioners come out, which was nice, and they participated both at our stand and in the cleanup. And then we had our Fall Festival, which is a event that the Park Service does every year, and we had a table there, and we pioneered something new where we had an electric van out there, and we had a voting board, and the public can write their thoughts on what they want for Better Glendale, and they can vote on projects that they want the city to focus on. So we had this van out there, and kids were drawing and writing on it. It was a lot of fun. And then this is kind of like the board where members of the public got to vote on what type of projects they'd like to see more of in the city. And if you like some of the results of the Fall Festival, so in terms of like the voting on the types of projects the community members want to see, this has kind of been the voting board breakdown. Each participant had 2 voting stickers, and the most popular categories was around affordable housing and green spaces. This graph, which is very hard to read, is all the results from drawing on the van. Most of the van doodles were like hearts, scribbles, names, etc. But the main theme there was that the types of projects that the ideas were mostly centered around like nature and parks and greenery and trees. That's also another very popular idea. And all these insights has been very helpful as we look into developing our CAP, but also looking into any future grant opportunities. We now have some data to suggest that these are the types of projects that the community wants. And then next up, we have a list, a dashboard that David was referring to of the items that the commission has agendized and requests.
So, as Commissioner Pinkerton suggested, we may have not been in the past most effective at reporting back on information that the Commissioner asked us at meetings to gather and report back. We may have missed, as would happen with the tree ordinance, when items were agendized. So Elizabeth and I wanted to figure out a way that we could more effectively manage those requests, those agendized requests, and also the information requests too, and be able to keep track and be able to respond to the commissioners. So this dashboard just says how many we've had, how many are open, how many are closed, and I think we have a spreadsheet that goes into it, into some of these items in a little bit more detail. So we just talk about that. Yeah, if that's okay. So we've developed the spreadsheet. So this one is agendized. So this one is agendized items. So the meeting in which the item was asked to be agendized, what was asked to be agendized, and then we're developing a status, whether it's scheduled, whether something's progress, waiting completed, and then the scheduled dates of when it's going to come back to the commission, and just some notes on top of the work that we're doing. So the back end of this, all this information gets put forward into that dashboard of what's completed and what's not completed. So we can be able to share this effectively with the chair of the commission and to make sure that the work is, and will help us also putting together the agendas over the next 2-3 months. We know how much work that we have to do, when we have to do it and everything, so it's going to make that process a lot more easier. And then we also have the requested items. So for example, tonight, we've been asked for a couple of requests to provide information to the commission. So we'll incorporate these and alter this requested item spreadsheet too. So again, this will just help us to be more effective, to respond to the commission's requests, and make sure that we give you the information that you asked for. So we think it's a big step forward, or a good step forward in us managing the workload.
This is great. Yeah, thank you so much for doing that. It's very helpful.
And I wanted to quickly mention, thank you. This is really transparent. I think we are the first and only commission to be doing this, so thank you both. Yeah.
And I just wanted to
And
say...
we need to thank Elizabeth for all this work.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And I just want to say that wasn't meant as a critique, it's just we're all learning in how we interact with the council and getting our schedules to align, but this is really helpful, so thank you very much.
And that is it for office updates.
Well, can you back up to the one that had the slide that had the car with the writing on it and the little dots?
Would you like to play the video, or would you like to see the results?
Just the slide that had the car where people were writing that. I didn't think it was maybe it was a video, I guess. Okay. Is that where that was? Okay.
This is also
Yeah.
posted on the Glendale Sustainability Instagram account.
Okay. So, yeah, my company calls the little boards where you put the dot, we call it dotmocracy. So everyone has a vote and they vote with the dot. So we do that at schools to see what programming they want, what are their priorities. So it's there it is, very effective. So even for young children, they can, understand that they're voting on something. And the car, is that like dry erase markers or what is that?
This idea comes from our innovation team who saw this pioneered in Calgary, Canada, and Calgary used dry erase markers, which they said wiped off the car fine. We use special car markers that our fleet team tested to make sure that they wipe off clean, and they did wipe off very clean at the end of the day.
That's very interesting. I hadn't seen those before, but I could see that would be a fun idea for lots of different applications.
One quick question on the results of the survey of affordable housing, I think was first. It's not in our bailiwick, but just a question. I know in LA, they had the real estate division come up with a inventory of excess surplus buildings owned by the city, and I'm just wondering if Glendale has ever done that. I don't know if there is surplus here, but just a thought. Because, you know, some might be suitable for conversion to housing.
We'll reach out to our affordable housing team and get that information for you.
I can respond to some of that question right now. So as you may know, the Community Development Department is in the last phase of updating its housing element. And part of that housing element is identifying properties that could potentially be used for housing development. It's part of what we're required to do statutorily in order to comply with the regional housing needs assessment numbers. We are statutorily required as well to maintain a list of surplus properties, excess or surplus properties, and comply with the Surplus Lands Act or Land Act. Every time there is a sale or a lease of property, the process needs to be followed in terms of the size of the property, and there are specific reporting requirements so that potential developers of affordable housing can be made aware that there is land available.
Great, thank you.
And to piggyback off what Vice Chair Pinkerton mentioned, affordable housing is ironically number one, even though we are not the Planning Commission. So I think this is a great opportunity for our next month's work plan for us to perhaps set up a resource or a way to directly talk with the Planning Commission and discuss these things, because, you know, density bonuses and higher density housing is definitely something sustainable that related. And I'm not sure if there's like a legal issue with that. Yeah.
Yes, if I could respond, thank you very much for that question. I think that is a more policy-oriented question, and so the Planning Commission has prescribed duties, and they are focused on ensuring that there's compliance with the general plan for quasi-adjudicative matters that come before them, such as the approval of permits and things of this nature, but they execute on the policies that are adopted by the City Council, and they're incorporated into our code in terms of zoning and the general plan. So while I think it would be useful to understand what the duties and obligations are of the Planning Commission, which is also an advisory body like yourselves, with some approval authority and also a recommending body, the policy direction comes from the City Council.
Yeah,
Wonderful,
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, we did have some folks come and talk about what the city is doing in the realm of affordable housing. So this survey, was this a citywide? Because like you said, affordable housing isn't really part of our purview per se, but I just wondered, like, how these categories were developed.
These categories come from the types of projects that the Transformative Climate Communities Grant will fund, and so we summarize all the 11 to 12 types of projects into 5 categories, so it's easier for people to vote on, and this data can be used if we apply for that grant again to show that these are types of projects that the community wants.
So just to double check, sorry, didn't fully quite get it. I know Glendale is following RENA housing units requirements. So there is no way we could perhaps intertwine our work with what the Planning Commission does. I know we can't rezone, of course, but promoting density bonuses, or I know we discussed a Verdugo's Job Center event. Perhaps we could get realtors here or planners discuss this, because I think affordable housing is sustainability oriented.
Members of the commission, ex officio, Borisoff, I think the department that you might want to be in contact with is economic development and community development, and talk with them about the efforts they already have underway with regard to their outreach to the development community. Density bonus is complex, it's statutorily driven, so that's something, of course, that Mr. Jones can look into and bring more information about, but just so that you're aware of, the community development is made up of multiple departments, and Again, economic development is probably the one that is undertaking the greatest level of outreach into the community, as well as our housing division. We have extremely busy housing divisions, so certainly Mr. Jones could look into perhaps having someone from the housing division come and provide some information to the Sustainability Commission. Look for those opportunities.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
I remember there was a study, it's about over 10 years ago now, maybe 20, but the main concern back then was about traffic and parking, and it outweighed everything else. Nothing else was even close. If you combine both of them, they had traffic and parking as two separate things, and they were like 1 and 2 in a lot of these studies. So it's just interesting to see things turn around, like as housing has gotten more and more expensive, that people's opinions about what's important have shifted. So it's a very interesting study.
And sorry, one more. Just to confirm, I can personally reach out to certain individuals who are working on these projects and the commissions as a whole, because I don't want to add on more things on David's and Elizabeth's plates. They are doing quite a lot. So if I can personally like talk with them, maybe not as representing the commission, but just as a
I think if we want to reach out to staff, it's best to direct those questions through us, and then we can make sure that we get the correct staff members.
All right,
Understood.
wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments on the wonderful presentation we just received?
Yeah, I'll just, I have one comment, but I did want to speak to Mike's comments real quick, that the hope is that through the climate action plan, we will be able to engage every single department in the city to talk about all the ways in which their work touches sustainability. So hopefully through these comments and dialogues, we could incorporate policy recommendations that touch housing, affordable housing, mobility, all the facets of what the city does through the climate action plan. And along those lines, I'm actually wondering if we could get, as part of our monthly staff reports, just like a quick update on the climate action plan. I know we're kind of gearing up and starting that process. And if we can just get a pulse check on a monthly basis, it doesn't have to be a report, or please don't add it to your spreadsheet because I don't want it to be formal, but if we can just get a verbal update on where we're at, things we're looking forward to in the near term, medium term, just a pulse check on that initiative.
Commissioner Bartras, if that's a great idea, absolutely, we'll do that. And I think that'd be good because the commission can be able to follow and then give you a heads up at the meetings and everything like that. So yeah, absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for that. And it looks like we're ready for the next agenda item.
The next agenda item is 7, adjournment, and I just need a motion and a second.
I did want to, before we adjourn, so next month will be when we're doing our workshop for the climate action plan and so on. So is there anyone that had questions on that or thoughts before we, adjourn?
I forgot to mention this earlier. I know that we had talked about potentially getting a quick briefing on situations in which we can teleconference into our future meetings. I realized during this meeting that I may have to do that for our December meeting. So I want to put that out there now and understand if that's trouble or if we can accommodate that.
Yes, Commissioner Bartras, that will become effective on the first of the year, as I mentioned. That's AB 2449, and so if there is just cause for any of the commissioners, and that they may be able to remote in teleconference to the meeting, and just cause is defined as any one of the following: childcare or giving or caregiving of a child, parent, grandparent, grandchild, sibling, spouse, or domestic partner that requires a member to participate remotely. Second one is contagious illness that prevents a member from attending in person. The third is a need related to physical or mental disability. and for traveling while on business of the legislative body or another state or local agency. In order to participate remotely under the just cause provisions, the member must notify the legislative body at the earliest possible opportunity, including at the start of the meeting, of their need to participate remotely and provide a general description of the circumstances relating to one or more of those items I've described. And then for emergency circumstances, must request that the legislative body allow them to participate in the meeting remotely because of emergency circumstances. And if it's something that notification should be provided as soon as possible. So I can provide a little bit more information to you, but I just wanted to give you a general sense of what this legislation is looking like, and perhaps, we could talk separately, and I can help you make a determination whether this will fall into that criteria for remote participation. Because I'm sure you won't be the only person or the first person on this board or elsewhere in the city serving on a board and commission will need to take advantage of that.
So just to clarify, so if I'm traveling for my day job, which is a local government, that would allow, okay.
Yes, it
thank
would.
you.
And to be clear, what you had just described as for 2023. So is there a condition in which a teleconference accommodation could be made before 2023? Because I'm specifically concerned about the December meeting.
Yes, yes, absolutely. We do have that now, but that is where there are the publicly accessible and the notification requirements would kick in. So there is some relief related to having yourself in like a library or someplace where the public can participate and access you remotely, or anyone who's participating remotely. So we can definitely look into that, and I can provide guidance on that. Of course.
Thank you.
And I have a quick question for the city attorney. Is our climate action plan working in tandem with the 6th cycle element plan, or are they going to be completely separate? The 6th cycle housing element plan, I believe we're working on one still. It's under public review, and I was just wondering if those two were going to work in conjunction for a few policy positions regarding sustainability.
The 6th cycle is essentially almost completed. There are some minor modifications being made in response to comments from HCD, and I don't have an exact date when we're coming back, but it's very soon. It would be for adoption. So I think it would be more along the lines of the Climate Action Plan working with the adopted 6th cycle housing element update. Yeah.
Right, perfect, thank you.
Okay, any other comments before we entertain adjournment? Okay, so do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
The meeting has adjourned at 6:30. Thank you.
Thank you.